This is Spare Time Repair, and this is a Denon DCD-600. I took a gamble on this one because although the eBay listing said it wasn't working, it didn't say what was actually wrong with it. It turns out that it's just a stuck tray, but because the seller packaged it in a box that was far too big and without proper padding, I now have a shattered chassis to deal with as well. Being British, I still gave the seller good feedback, but then I can't really complain when it had been reduced to just $3.60. Unusually for an eBay purchase, it came with a remote control and the original manual, but has its rough journey done further damage inside. The box this came in was about 3 times the height of the player, and it just had a single layer of bubble wrap around it. But even so, it shows you how rough they are with the parcels. This one won't even undo, and this one's not screwed into anything. So this is broken off. That should be attached to the front panel here. Need to keep track of all the pieces of broken plastic. Well, either there's some plastic still in the box that I missed, or it's gone under the PCB somehow, but I doubt it. Here's the other broken post for the top cover. That probably goes on the left side. Oh, whoa. Well, this is cracked all along the edge. If I undo this screw, the whole thing's going to come off. Well, not quite, but nearly. At least it's all in one piece though, so it could be re-glued. Well, there's stuff rattling around, but I can't actually see where it is at the moment. This transformer's loose. I haven't actually looked at the bottom, but I think that's shattered as well. Well, there's a big metal panel on the bottom, so at least I can remove that to find missing pieces without having to take the PCB out. I did only buy this because it was so cheap. I don't normally buy things if I don't know what the fault is. It's amazing how many eBay listings just say, not working. Why is this in 2 pieces? It really needs completely stripping out and gluing properly. This cracker's overlapped. I can't actually... Oh, there we go. You'd think it would have broken here where there's less plastic, but this all seems intact. There's a less serious crack down here as well. One of the mounting brackets for the transport is completely snapped as well. So this is just very loose. I need to take this whole thing apart. Well, let's look at the tray problem first. That seems to be the easiest thing to resolve. It might actually not be a belt problem. It might be that it's not ejecting just because the transport's out of alignment. Because normally when you would press eject and you give it a helping hand, it will come out fine, but it doesn't seem right. Well, this mounting bracket's broken as well. There's not much holding this transport down at all. Looks like you can release the tray by pushing down in here. It's a slightly unusual tray design. This just falls away to leave the disc on the spindle. Yes, there's only this screw actually holding the transport down. Nope, there is another screw. It's in a slightly unusual place down here. So these shock mounts are mounted to plastic posts which are broken off. 3 of those. Nope, all 4. That one's broken as well. That's the other mounting post. So here's the loading belt, which doesn't feel terrible. Let's just plug it in again and see if it's trying to do anything. Yeah. Yep, that's definitely not working. This new belt is quite a bit smaller. So let's see if it actually wants to read a disc. It's read it okay. Will it play? Okay, well, at least there's something worth salvaging here. I've just found under here a key piece of the chassis jigsaw. Okay, so let's remove the disc, unplug it and strip it down, find all the plastic pieces and see what we can do with them. So I'm going to remove the transport first. I need to disconnect this ground wire. I'm going to pop the screw back in there so I don't misplace it. That looks like everything's socketed and color-coded, which is helpful. The transport should now be... Nope, there's one more. Yep, that is quite a nest of cables. Very nice brass worm gear here. There's a metal bushing inside this nylon piece as well, so that's not going to wear out. And we've got another belt here for the laser sled. That's pretty slack. So you might as well replace that. This belt that came off is quite thin. It's unusual for my replacement belts to be thicker, but I think that should do the job. I can push this down and feed that through there. I think that should be okay. Pickup is a KSS 152A. Pretty sure that's a Sony mechanism. Yeah, it feels like a nicely made, robust transport. Well, I guess it must be if it withstood that journey. I think this is a mounting bracket for the top case. Actually, no, I think this is for the transport. Yeah, that goes there. Let's take out this little PCB for the power switch. And these connectors for the transformer are different sizes, so I shouldn't get those mixed up. Those screws are really loose. Let's take out the front panel as well. I would have removed this anyway because it needs a really good clean. No screws in the bottom, just a clip to push in. 3 clips in the top too. Oh, PCB is not attached to the front panel. And now the side panel comes away completely, but we don't appear to be missing any fragments. So will this now lift out? There's 2 clips on the side here. I think I'm going to unscrew this front panel PCB as well, because I think the whole thing will come out as one unit. Well, I can't unscrew it because these aren't screws. These are little push-in pins by the look of it. They're like little rivets, so they're not intended to come out. Maybe I can be persuasive. Yeah, you just push this in and it flares out the end to stop it being pulled out. So this should now come off. And I think it's just this one screw at the back. That should release the RCA jacks. And then this grounding wire here. And then we've just got the headphone jack. Whoops. Okay, that one was on me. Well, perhaps it wasn't essential that I removed everything, but at least now I know for sure I've got all the broken parts. I can hopefully figure out where everything came from. Well, the good news is I think I've figured out where everything goes. So these 2 lugs here are the fixings for the top cover. These 2 are the mountings for the transport, and they go here. These 4 pins here are for the rubberized shock mounts, and I've figured out which one goes where based on the brake pattern, and I've marked those and arranged those so I know which one is which. This side panel is complete, and that just slots in there. And the triangle that broke off on this side fills that in completely. I've got myself some JB Weld epoxy, but I think initially I'm going to stick stuff with super glue just to get it in position, because the epoxy takes a while to go off. So it's a bit like welding metal really. I'm tack welding with the super glue just to get it in place, and then I'll do it properly with the epoxy. So that's going to be quite a long and tedious process, so we'll pick it up when I've finished. Alright, well that took about an hour, but I think I've done everything. So once all these fixings were in place with the super glue, I've just run some of the epoxy around it. It doesn't look pretty, but doesn't really matter. And then along this cracked piece here, I've just run a bead really, quite thick, which should hopefully do the trick. But in the meantime, I can clean up this front panel, because it really needs it. The front panel is clean. That's now looking pretty good. And I've refixed the metal plate on the bottom as well as the feet, just to give it a bit more rigidity while it's drying. But I'm thinking since most of the epoxy is on this side, I can refit the PCB and the front panel display, because that's not going to interfere with anything. And I've refixed the bottom panel, but I should have slid this in first. Before the PCB goes in, I need to refix this bracket. Actually, this screw for the bottom plate needs to come out first, or at least be loosened. And that's just come up through there and held it in place. Now I need to reconnect the headphone jack. And that collar just fastens it in place. And this is quite nice. In this corner there's these two jumper wires, and when you insert this screw, it just couples those to this metal plate, and then this ground wire runs to the headphone jack. And I made a note to myself that the headphone jack connector goes to socket CB112, which is this one. And then we can reconnect this ground spade terminal to this plate, which couples it with the top cover. And then this cable tidy goes in the top here, and that also secures the RCA jacks. Someone asked me if I could highlight the DAC chips in these players, and in this one I think it's this. Pretty small and inconspicuous, but that is a PCM 56P. And I should just spray up these buttons with contact cleaner. And just clean the glass for the fluorescent display. So now we can refix the front panel. I was just using these plastic rivets. I wonder why they didn't just use screws. There we go. So I've just routed these wires through here and clipped them down out of the way as they were before. Well, I can refix the transformer as well. I think it's really only the transport that needs to wait until the epoxy is dried. Refit the linkage arm. So let's service the transport as well, and I like this design. You've got these end stops for the sled rails, and so you can twist them out of the way and slide the whole rail out. So we can do those one at a time. And that is incredibly easy. Just going to clean this leaf switch as well. It's got some paper soaked in alcohol. And this might all be unnecessary, but I haven't had the player running long enough yet to know whether it plays reliably. Certainly won't do it any harm. And this post for the disc clamp is split, so it looks like you just bend this back. Actually, it's connected by this spring on the underside, so it's not quite that easy. And luckily that didn't ping off. This should now come out. And I did that to clean the laser lens, but I don't think it needs it. Yeah, just had a look through a magnifier and that seems perfectly fine. Just refit the front panel. And next, although it's nice to have a remote control, somebody clearly hasn't used it lately. We have corroded batteries, best if installed by January 1996. I hate taking remote controls apart because you never know where the clips are. And it's really hard to do it without damaging the edges. I don't necessarily have to take it apart, but I'd rather take these metal springs out and clean them properly than do it in situ. Well, it wasn't a bad idea to take it apart because that corrosion goes all the way back to the board. Plus it's nice to just clean it up properly. Got years of dust and finger grease on here. So I've cleaned up the case and that's drying. And I'm just going to put the rest in this white vinegar. And the acid in the vinegar just neutralises the alkaline leak from the battery. And rather than desolder this, I'm going to mop it on with a cotton bud. And then I'll just give it a clean with alcohol, get rid of the acid. Now just wire brush the contacts. Well, I wouldn't say it's as good as new, but it's not bad. And you can see from my multi-tester that it is working. Well, I was going to leave the epoxy overnight, but it's been a couple of hours and it feels pretty solid, and I think it's good enough for me to refit the transport. So first I'm going to refit these rubber shock mounts. Yeah, those have located nicely. Can be very gentle with the screws. That now feels very secure. We can reconnect our grounding wire and all our connectors. And then these cables were just tidied up with this. Cleaned up the tray. That looks pretty good. And because there was originally grease on the underside, I'm going to replenish that with some silicone grease. It's just on this bottom surface where it meets the runners. We can put some in these teeth as well. The top panels come up pretty well. Shame about this scratch. Our refixed mounting brackets line up nicely. Very gentle with these front ones. I don't know why the display has to light everything up when there's no disc inserted. That seems completely unnecessary. Anyway, since we have the luxury of a remote control, it's not the quickest at searching. But it gets there. Well, everything appears to be fine, and that's probably the word I'd use to describe this player. Nothing amazing, just fine. So it's a nicely made machine that works well, but it feels generic and unexciting to me. It's funny how some players just fail to grab you. It doesn't help that the display lights up like a Christmas tree when there's no disc, but I can't quite put my finger on why I don't like it. The problem is I don't know what to do with it. I can't really sell it with that chassis damage, and I'm not convinced it would survive another trip in the postal system anyway. Maybe I'll just donate it to a thrift store and hope that someone else enjoys it. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.